So this time, let's talk about some unusual and difficult transactions. Even though we've designed CowProfits to handle most transactions that you can think of or that we could think of, there's always going to be something that doesn't fit. We call these unusual or difficult transactions, and these show up as FAQs or frequently asked questions on our website, cowprofits.ca. So the best way to start is to go there and see if someone else has asked this question. In general, the idea is to be innovative, to try to look for a workaround, and try to find a way that will handle the problem but won't cause too many inaccuracies or problems in your analysis. So now let's look at some examples. Swath grazing. The problem is that swaths are produced in one year and they're often fed in the next year. Pasture enterprises have no way to handle inventories, so we've got a problem. Forage establishment costs. The problem here is that establishment costs are incurred in one year, but the forage stand usually lasts 3 or 5 years. So how can you keep big establishment year costs from distorting your analysis? Custom work revenue. CowProfits has no specific way to handle this. Government payments and programs. The problem here is that where should you record this, and how do you match them up with the proper business year? And the last one we'll look at is cow leases or sharing agreements. The problem is that there are many agreements out there where one party gets a percentage of the calves and there's no specific dollars involved. So how do I record that? So let's take a look at these 5. First, swath grazing. As I said before, the big problem here is that the pasture and the aftermath enterprises don't have any way to handle inventories, so you can't transfer something from one year to the next. So why not take a forage enterprise and add a crop called swath grazing? And because CowProfits lets us define any unit we want as long as we can measure it in pounds, then let's take AUMs or animal unit months and look at how many pounds a cow would eat in that month. And so let's say 30 pounds a day times 30 days, 900 pounds, or your best estimate as how much a cow eats in a month. Then transfer out the number of AUMs that you use in the current year in the ordinary way. You can transfer it out to the cows or feeders or whatever is eating those swaths. And then the remaining AUMs are going to be ending inventory to use next year. One possible complication, and often there are complications when we do these workarounds, is that per ton numbers on the forage report will include swath grazing. But if you wanted to, you could create a separate forage enterprise just for swath grazing. So I think that's a pretty good workaround. Forage establishment costs. Well, this one, because your forage stand probably lasts for 5 years, it looks like a very big number on that first year when you incur those cash costs. So what we suggest is enter the costs normally, allocate them to the forage enterprise, then enter an ending supply inventory equal to about 80%. And then you can repeat that over the next 4 years. Really what it's saying is that after the first year, you have 80% of that value left, and we're going to transfer it to the next year as a supply inventory. So the result is that the total costs, the $25,000 in this example, are spread over 5 years. So instead of distorting the first year's analysis, it spreads it across. The next one is custom work revenue. This one's a little easier because if you only do a little bit of custom work, you can enter it as miscellaneous revenue and allocate it to whatever enterprise. Might be the forage enterprise if you're doing custom baling. But however, if your custom work is a big part of your business, then you could consider using an other enterprise, and you'd probably call it custom work, and you'd allocate all your revenues and expenses to that enterprise. This one is government support payments. This is a little trickier because sometimes you get these payments, you don't know, they're always out of sync, let's say. You don't know what year they should be allocated to. And they usually come at least a year after the fact or late. So one strategy then is to record the payment in the revenue grid as miscellaneous revenue and allocate it to whatever enterprise you think it belongs. This way the cash, your cash numbers stay correct. But then enter the same amount as a beginning balance in receivables. So that's saying that at the beginning of the year you were owed this much. So now, once you've done that, estimate your current year payments and record them as ending balances and receivables. So the result is the cash totals are correct, and if you're doing several years of analysis, you'll be able to assign these payments in the appropriate year. Another way you could do this is to use another enterprise and keep track of these payments totally separately. And then finally, this one is pretty common, are cow lease payments or cow lease sharing arrangements. And this is where a cow owner gets a percentage of the calves. So what we suggest is record the owner's calves as a sale in the revenue and cow-calf grids. In this case, it's 22 steers, 24 heifers, and so forth. Then record an offsetting amount as the cattle share expense. So the effect of this is that all the calves produced are accounted for, and the dollars per calf and dollars per pound cost should be correct. Now the problem is that your revenue will be inflated, but it will be offset by the cattle share expense amount. So the overall total should be correct. So just to wrap up, remember that CowProfits is designed to handle pretty much everything we could throw at it, but there are always going to be difficult transactions, and what we suggest is to look for a workaround, try to be innovative, and do the best you can to make it fit. Okay, that's it for this time.